Have you ever stopped to think about what is really about to happen to the world? What if someone told you they had seen the future? A future so terrifying that it could change everything we know. In this video, you will hear the shocking story of Madison Reyes, a 17-year-old girl who died briefly and came back with a shocking vision of the Great War that is about to begin. This is not a theory. This is not a vague prophecy. This is a direct call to your conscience. If you are here, it's not by chance. Leave a like now, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell, because this video may be the most important one you've ever watched. And comment below the city where you're seeing this alert. Let's map this awakened community together. My name is Madison Reyes. I was 17 when I died, and I came back with a message that could change, or save, the world. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to tell you what I saw, because if you feel, even for a second, what I felt, you'll understand. I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona. I grew up on trails and deserts, always that invisible girl in high school, the weird one who writes poetry and listens to sad music, until the day everything got out of control. It was a summer morning. I had run away from home after a fight with my father. I stole my mother's car and drove to Oak Creek Gorge, a place that had always given me peace. I grabbed a bottle of vodka that I had hidden in the closet. I sat on the edge of the cliff, listening to Lana Del Rey at full volume, as if the pain could be washed away with soundtracks and the wind in my face. That's when I lost my balance. The world spun, my body fell, and my consciousness snapped away. I felt no pain, none. It was as if I had slipped out of my body like a heavy, wet coat. I floated over the rocks, over my bloody body. I knew I was dead, but, contrary to what I had imagined, there was no darkness. There was light, a light that seemed to recognize me and pull me along. Passing through that light was like passing through the skin of the universe. I was sucked into a space where time did not exist, where everything vibrated with meaning. And that's where Vaya began. The first thing I saw when I stepped through the light was a city, but it wasn't on Earth. It was floating. It didn't have streets or buildings like ours. It was made of translucent structures like liquid crystal, pulsating in shades of gold, deep blue and bright white. Each building seemed alive. It vibrated. It breathed, as if they were conscious beings. Everything there was consciousness. Floating through the structures, shapes appeared, not with faces or bodies like ours, but presences. They felt like ancient peace, like love that doesn't demand anything, like wisdom that doesn't need to be spoken. One of them came to me. I knew it was a guide of some kind, but I didn't hear a voice. I felt the words directly in my spirit, as if they were imprinted on me. You must see. What is to come has already begun. That was when the scene changed. Without warning, without transition, the suspended city dissolved, and I was sucked into a kind of gigantic theater, where a screen showed not movies, but futures, realities, possibilities. And what I saw there destroyed me inside. I saw American cities being swallowed up in chaos. I saw New York City silent, as if it had been hollowed out from within. I saw young people with dull eyes being swept away by waves of influence that didn't come from TV or the internet. They came from something invisible, dense and dark. I saw Washington, D.C. collapsing, a president being airlifted out, soldiers on rooftops. I saw explosion, but the scariest thing wasn't what I saw, it was what I felt. A war was about to begin, but it wasn't just about weapons. It was a war for the human soul, and it was already being fought inside us. After the apocalyptic visions, I was led by this faceless presence into a new space. It looked like a dome suspended in the void, made of infinite glass. In the center was something that looked like a globe, but it was not the Earth as we know it. It was the Earth seen from the inside. I saw lines of energy intertwined like veins, some vibrating with blue light, others pulsing with dense red, almost black. Around this globe were other beings. Their forms wavered, but they all exuded something I could not explain. Ancient wisdom, silent dignity. I knew. It was the Council of Souls, entities that have watched humanity for millennia, without interfering, unless the balance reaches a critical point. One of them turned to me, and there, without voice, without movement, he spoke to me with painful clarity. The world is collapsing not because of matter, but because of frequency. And then the globe began to show hidden scenes, not physical wars, but subtle attacks, distorted emotions, poisoned ideologies, digital addictions that disconnect souls from their essence. I saw young people in the United States being sucked into devices that drained their life energy without them realizing it. I saw social networks become invisible battlefields, shaping thoughts like programmed weapons. I saw churches corrupted, schools sickened, families silently fragmenting. And then the sentence came, clear as thunder that makes no sound. Prepare for the great war. It will be silent before it is loud, spiritual before it is nuclear. I trembled. This was not a warning. It was a call. And the most terrifying thing, most of humanity had no idea what was about to happen. The globe before the council was transformed into a kind of living model. The world's major capitals appeared in miniature, with black towers emerging from underground. Washington, Beijing, Moscow, London, all had such structures, invisible in the physical world, but absolutely real in the spiritual. These towers were not buildings, but systems of control. They fed on collective fear, polarization, constant distraction. I saw how ideas were planted like seeds, false certainties, hate speech, destructive fads, and spread like plagues. Nothing was by chance. Nothing was spontaneous. Everything was directed. It was then that I saw them, beings that looked human but weren't. They called themselves the manipulators. They had no defined face, and they changed according to culture and time. They were like actors in an ancient play. One moment, they seemed like leaders. The next, influencers. The next, corrupt scientists. They moved between the towers, exchanging commands, like conductors of a symphony of destruction. And the most shocking thing, many of them they didn't know that were being used. Some thought they were doing good. Others believed they were waking up the masses. But behind the scenes, they were connected to an energetic network that fed them power, ego, and illusion. I felt deep down in my soul that we were being prepared, manipulated into accepting war as inevitable. And worst of all, many had already given in, not with weapons, but with their hearts asleep. You can still choose, said a voice inside me, but the window is closing. That's when I understood. The time for neutrality is over. Whoever doesn't choose the light will, without knowing it, be feeding the darkness. After witnessing the dark control that was looming over the world, something changed inside the dome. The energy globe disappeared, and in its place appeared a field, a vast, infinite field, full of points of light. At first, I thought they were stars, but as I got closer, I realized they were children, thousands of them. Some were still babies, others were teenagers, and all of them had a unique, vibrant light, so pure it was almost unbearable. Some were sleeping, others were looking directly at me, and in those eyes, I saw a strength I had never seen in any adult. They are the resistance, said a voice, perhaps from the same being that guided me. They came with codes that the manipulators cannot decipher, but they must be protected. They must awaken. I saw some of these children silenced by diagnoses, others addicted to screens before they could even speak. Some were in foster care, others in wealthy but emotionally absent families. I saw their souls screaming, and the world responding with silence, but I also saw some who were beginning to remember. I saw a boy in Alaska who drew star maps without ever having studied astronomy, a blind girl in Chicago who described visions of peace between nations that don't even exist yet, a group of teenagers in Texas who meditated in secret and channeled phrases they didn't know where they came from. These children, these souls, were like antennas, and I was one of them. I just didn't know it. The war will not be won by weapons, nor by governments. It will be won by vibration, by frequency, by spiritual memory. And those children, us, we are the awakeners of a world that has forgotten who it is. But time was running out, and something darker was approaching. The children's light began to fade one by one, as if a shadow were covering the field. I was then taken to a new place, a towering wall made of living energy. It was the horizon of time, a breaking point between what was, what is, and what could be. There, I was forced to watch what happens when humanity continues to ignore the signs. I saw a world where communication was collapsing, networks were down, information was disappearing or distorted to the point where no one knew what was real anymore. I saw food becoming scarce, not because of a lack of resources, but because of deliberate control. I saw people distrusting each other to the point where coexistence turned into domestic warfare. The borders, once symbolic, became physical walls, and the skies were filled with machines, drones, fighter jets, objects I didn't recognize. It was as if a new global order was being imposed but not with promises, with fear of an invisible enemy that no one knew exactly who it was. And then the clock appeared, floating in the sky, made of smoke and fire. It showed 0 hour. I saw the hand moving, slowly, getting closer to something. With each second, the earth trembled. Every human step towards indifference, hatred, selfishness, sped up the hand. When it reached 1 second of midnight, I heard a sound, not with my ears but with my spirit. A collective scream, millions of souls crying out for help. But it was too late. I saw the sky open, not in light, but in fury. Simultaneous explosions on 5 continents. Leaders running, hiding in bunkers. Children crying without understanding why. And above all this, a dark entity, gigantic, hovered. This was the face of the final war. Not one nation against another, but unconsciousness against consciousness. And that's when something inside me screamed, "He arrives." The moment the scream left me, not my throat, but my soul, something changed. The dark sky began to vibrate, first in a low, barely audible tone, then in higher and higher frequencies, as if the universe itself were responding to the cry. The explosions froze. The screams fell silent. Time stopped. And then, I saw it. A colossal light descended from above, not as a beam, but as an ocean pouring down upon the earth. It was alive. It was conscious. It had form and no form. It was everything at once. Man, woman, child, old man. It was awakened humanity itself, manifesting itself on a level that surpassed all material limits. The presence touched the spots on the planet where chaos had begun, and where there had been bombs, there was now silence. Where there had been hatred, there were tears. Where there had been division, there were hands reaching out. I saw generals stripped of their ranks. I saw hackers revealing hidden truths. I saw religious leaders crying in repentance. And in the midst of it all, I saw ordinary people like me, like you, awakening, remembering. The higher consciousness, the one that has always been here but can only intervene when invited, had finally been activated, not by rituals, not by politicians, but by hearts in resonance. And at that moment, I understood something that broke me apart inside. It was never about stopping war with force. It was always about stopping it with awakening. That light did not save the world. It only revealed what the world could be if every soul would say, "Enough," as I said. But the most profound revelation was yet to come. I needed to look inside myself and accept what I had ignored my entire life. I was transported to a completely different space. Absolute silence. Total darkness. There was no more sky, no beings, no light. Just me. And in the center, a mirror. It was oval. It floated, and it did not reflect my physical body, but something deeper. My essence. I stepped closer, hesitantly. What I saw took my breath away. I saw my soul, pure and raw. The parts of myself I loved. My empathy for animals. My affection for my grandmother. The notes I secretly wrote to those who were bullied at school. But I also saw what I avoided. I saw my contempt for those who were different. My cruel words typed on anonymous forums. The envy, the anger, the constant feeling of not being enough, and how that turned into judgment of others. Every hidden thought, every unassumed action, it was all there. But more shocking than my shadows were the pains of others. I saw my mother's hidden fear, my father's silent frustrations. I saw my best friend cutting herself in secret while I thought she was just trying to get attention. I saw the boy I made fun of in the cafeteria, crying alone because he felt like no one was watching him. And I understood. All external wars are born from internal wars that no one sees. The angel reappeared. He was smaller now, closer to me. He spoke no sweet words. He simply said, "The world changes when the heart changes. And you saw the world because your heart asked for change." I started crying, not out of guilt, but out of release. In that mirror, I understood that I was part of the problem, and the solution, the war that I saw outside, was also inside me. And only when I accepted this, The mirror disappeared. After the mirror disappeared, a new space opened up before me, a vast library, but without any physical books. The shelves were made of light, and each book floated like planets in orbit. As I approached, one of them came toward me as if it recognized me. When I touched it, it opened. It was the book of my soul. In the first few pages, I saw my life in stunning detail, my birth, the thoughts I never said out loud, the dreams I had abandoned. But as I turned the pages, something incredible happened. The future was not written. It emerged as I thought, felt, chose. The entire library felt alive. On other shelves, I saw books by people I knew, my sister, my friends, even strangers who had crossed my path for a second. Each one had infinite possibilities, paths that opened or closed based on a simple choice, to act with fear or with awareness. In the center of the library, there was a different book, golden, giant, the brightest of all, the Book of Earth. And when it opened, it didn't show continents or wars. It showed the collective consciousness. And there were two paths traced with almost equal force, one of collapse, where the invisible forces took complete control, and another of ascension, where the human being finally awakened to what he is. I saw the next global decisions as triggers, a treaty rejected, a missile launched by ego, a technology released too soon. But I also saw individual choices creating ripples that changed everything. A young woman refusing to follow unjust orders, a police officer protecting protesters, a scientist exposing secrets, and most powerful of all, someone saying, "I forgive." The angel appeared, as if emerging from the pages of the book, and said, "The world is not written, it is being written, now, by every awakened consciousness." And then he looked at me deeply. "You will forget details, but you will never forget the call." The library began to dissolve into golden particles, and I knew the time was coming. But before returning, something still needed to happen. The last portal opened, and it was the most intimate of all. The final portal was unlike anything I had ever seen. There was no structure, no color, no sound. It was like stepping through the skin of absolute silence. I was pulled through it, not with my body, but with my consciousness, and on the other side was an endless field of white. In the center, a circle of presences awaited me. They weren't angels. They were souls, like me. They surrounded me and, without words, began to transmit something to me. It was like an injection of meaning directly into my soul. I remembered things I had never experienced in this life. I remembered who I was before of being born, of why I agreed to come, of how I asked to forget, so I could remember with my heart, and not just with my mind. The mission became crystal clear. I was sent to witness the crossroads, to see the coming war, and to speak before it begins. I saw that my story, like that of so many others, would serve as a trigger for sleeping souls to awaken. But there was a price. "If you go back, you will carry the pain of someone who has seen too much," they said. "You will be discredited. You will miss something the world doesn't remember. You will feel afraid, and even then, you will have to speak out." And at that moment, they showed me my surroundings. I saw my body being resuscitated in the hospital, my parents crying, the doctors discussing what had happened. I saw suspicious looks, unanswered questions. I saw my own mouth opening to tell, and being interrupted by laughter, by skepticism, by silence. But I also saw a look, the look of someone listening, and that look shone, and that look changed everything. "One soul that awakens ignites 1,000 others," they said. It was then that the field began to disappear. I felt my essence being pulled back into my physical body. But before I left, one last phrase was whispered into my soul. "The great war will be won by those who have the courage to see before their eyes see." And then, it got dark. That was my experience. I don't know if you'll believe it, but if you felt anything, fear, heat, trembling, goosebumps, then maybe you've been called too. If you liked this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time,